Awesome. All right. Welcome to JupiterOne's Fireside Chat. We have some really amazing news to announce today. We have two special guests. We have Hossain from Cisco, and we have Erkang Zheng from JupiterOne. I'll let them introduce themselves in a second. We have some wonderful news to announce today, so we've brought these two gentlemen on this fireside chat to speak to you guys. So, very quickly, Moon, let's take a couple seconds and tell the audience who you are.
Thanks for having me. I'm Moon Hossain. I'm a senior director at Cisco SPG Security Business Group. Pleasure to be with you today.
Excellent. And Erkang?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Erkang. I'm the founder and CEO of JupiterOne. Very excited to join Moon here for the special announcement.
Yeah. So speaking of that, we obviously threw this together for a reason. We're not just putting these two guys on for the pretty faces, although we have that. We are actually here to announce something great. So, what's the announcement, Moon?
So, we're really excited to have partnered with JupiterOne to introduce a new offering, and it's Cisco Secure Cloud Insights. So this offering brings fresh and very powerful capabilities to Cisco's SecureX portfolio. So it extends beyond, traditional cloud security posture management use cases, and it's provided to provide our customers with the ability for them to more effectively manage their entire cyber asset attack surface.
Yeah, and to add on to that, right? So that's JupiterOne's core offering, now part of the Cisco portfolio under SecureX. And like Moon said, right, it's not just CSPM. A lot of the foundational security, cloud security capability started with CSPM, but we all know that cloud is just a small part of the entire digital operations, and we have to look at the entire attack surface, and we have to look at all of these cyber assets, and that's what we're so excited to share with everyone today.
That's fantastic. This partnership is going to be something to be very excited about. And as CMO at JupiterOne, I personally am obviously very excited about it as well. So, very quickly, Moon, can you give us a little bit of the information around the challenges that Cisco or Erkang, when you comment JupiterOne, saw in the customer base? What was the real need and gap that the prospects or the market was having?
Yeah, absolutely. So, before we get into the gaps, if you look at the continued adoption of the whole cloud first and digital transformation strategies that our customers are going through, it's really fundamentally changed the way their businesses operate. So organizations are migrating to new tools, new systems, new processes, and this is sort of propelling their business forward. But they simply have to survive in a rapidly changing world as these transitions are happening. So all of these capabilities have allowed them to sort of be more agile in this market space. It's increased their time to market. It's increased productivity, and it's also reduced costs for them. Now that comes at a cost. So what we're also seeing is that it's created a number of new problems from a cybersecurity standpoint. So, when you look at IT assets, when they move beyond on-premise devices to the cloud, there's an aspect of the ephemeral nature of these assets, and it's led to sprawl, it's led to, proliferation and increased scale and increased complexity. And there's really no centralized view for this expanding universe of cloud assets. And there's a lot of silos. So when we speak to CIOs, for example, they talk about 50, and these are large corporations, they talk about 50 to 80 different types of tools that they have to perform monitoring. So you can see it's super siloed. They're only looking at bits and pieces, and they really don't have that view of that broader picture. And that's what we're providing with insights to solve that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Erkang, do you have anything to add on top of the challenges that
Sure.
JupiterOne saw in their customer base, and why this makes sense for the joint base?
Absolutely, right. So 100% agree with everything what Moon just said. I think, from my perspective, a lot of what we're trying to do sounds like it's so foundational and so basic, right? But also, like Moon mentioned, there's so much complexity now that in our digital operations. And I think because of this digital transformation, it moved the business forward a lot faster in a much faster, unprecedented pace. But at the same time, it also presented unprecedented challenge for us to manage it from a visibility standpoint, from a security standpoint. And it makes what we think as sort of the basics so difficult, so almost impossible to accomplish, right? And that basic is understanding ourselves. That basic is to maintain the hygienes and just the simple questions of knowing what we have and who owns them, how they are connected, how they're related to each other, becomes so much more complex to answer, right? And I think that's what we are here to help solve. And the other thing also, when you mentioned, right, is there are so many different silos, not just within security, right? So within security, there are different operations. There's vulnerability management, there's cloud security, there's AppSec, and incident response, and all of those things. But beyond that, right? So there's also the difference between security and then compliance, and then there's IT and there's engineering. We all have to work hand in hand together and understanding all of these data, the infrastructure, the environment. And there isn't really a platform that can help them and bridge these gaps and have one source of truth or one system of record, so they can all look at the same things and answer the same questions. I think this is what we're trying to provide here.
So let me press on that just a little bit with you, Erkang. SecOps culture. Can you give me an idea on how you define security operations culture today and why that's important to this announcement?
Absolutely. So if you think about SecOps, right? So and undoubtedly people think of DevSecOps and then DevOps. And I think if you look at and think about how the DevOps transformation happened and the changes in culture there, it really is very much an engineering and automation driven shift. And it is not a matter of having different people in different teams doing things, but these roles still exist and this function still exists, but it might be the same set of people or individuals, or maybe different individuals fulfilling those functions like dev and QA and deployment and so on and so forth. But really it's supported by automation and data and engineering. And the same thing is happening with SecOps, right? With security. All these different functions has to be tied together using automation and using engineering. And that is a transition that the security team have to embrace.
Yeah, so there's significant shifts in SecOps that are happening right now based on cloud, based on API, based on how we build our systems today. And it sounds like the Cisco plus JupiterOne announcement is really going to help new customers or Cisco specific customers to actually find the security that can be built around that and the security engineering that can be built around that solution. Moon, what has changed in the past 5 years about cloud security that Cisco, has had to adjust to, work with, and create products around?
Yeah, I think Erkan hit it on the head in terms of talking about the silos, the complexity. If there was anything that I was going to add, it's a very hard job. Everyone's understaffed. There are many disjointed tools, like we talked about previously, and the footprint of what they used to protect previously has changed dramatically as all of these assets are moving to the cloud. There are multi-cloud environments. There's how do I deal with the cloud environments relative to what I have on-prem. So the complexity has increased quite a bit. So I would talk about the complexity more than anything else in terms of the changes that our IT staffs are actually dealing with.
I see. Erkang, and do you have any, past 5 years, cloud security, how has it changed? I mean, you've been a practitioner prior to founding JupiterOne. Talk about the shifts between when you were a practitioner and now.
Yeah, well, thank you for mentioning that, right? So, and before building JupiterOne, and the reason for building JupiterOne is really is to solve a lot of my own firsthand challenges, right? Being a former CISO and cloud security lead at different places, right? And I think that it is not just not only the silos, right? So the way I think about it is really what defines cloud security. And before when we think about cloud security, is okay, virtual machines and virtual workloads in public cloud, maybe in some private cloud or hybrid, right? So all of those definitions evolves. But then there's a tremendous amount of SaaS software offerings that has come up, right? So over the years, things like GitHub and things like Okta and all of these core functional controls or core engineering controls and these platforms and so on are becoming cloud native and software as a service. So when we think about cloud security, we have to think about all of those. And not only those by itself, but how do these connect together? How do these work together? And then I want to tie back to the people aspect as well, right? Is and we want to empower the teams, right? So part of security's jobs is not just control and block and so on, but it's to enable and empower. So with all those combined, we have to think about, well, all of these tools that different functions are using and all of these different controls that security is trying to deploy, and how do we tie those together, and how do we empower the people to do the right things, right? So those are the challenges, and those are what changed. And security function has changed from more of an enforcing to more of an enabling and empowering function.